the Space Marketing Podcast, where we look at marketing principles, strategies, and tactics through the lens of space. Information related to our discussion today and links to the video version can be found in the episode's show notes on spacemarketingpodcast.com. Please like and follow the podcast wherever you listen. It will help us get the word out about what's going on in space. The Space Marketing Podcast is for informational use only, and please consult a professional about your specific situation. A few weeks ago, I moderated a session of marketing experts at the Space Tourism Conference. I had the pleasure of having my next guest on my panel. Brian Weiner is the founder and CEO of the Illusion Factory, the multi-award-winning marketing, advertising, and technology studio that has promoted many of the largest properties in entertainment. Since 1979, the Illusion Factory has been entrusted with advertising and marketing of over $7 billion in filmed, live productions, broadcast, streaming, interactive, and gaming properties. In that time, they have generated over $100 billion in revenue and garnered 265 awards for their clients. Adding to his impressive list is the Illusion Factory's newest venture in advertising and marketing by using the Web3 technology platform as a service. It is called Sizzle. It is like a theme park for the imagination. So please help me welcome Brian to the podcast. Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Izzy?
I'm doing good. So why don't we kick this off with telling us what the Web3 is? You know, we've heard a lot about it throughout all of the different conversations that are happening out there, but there's a lot of people that just don't know what it is yet.
I wouldn't profess to be the end-all expert on the topic, but I'll give you certainly my perspective on it. How's that?
How it sounds great.
I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that at the outset of Web3 saw blockchain, crypto, NFTs, tokens, and it wasn't necessarily our particular interest. And so the huge misnomer took place at that moment in time where a large volume of people said, I don't care about Web3, which is, I was one of them. And so it's an ignorant statement, self-admittedly, because that's like presuming that you're not going to update your iPhone or your Android when the next couple operating systems come out, a couple years swell of time. Most things on your phone are going to stop working. And Web3 is just the next evolution of where things are going. It's not like people are going to pretend that they're never going to be there. They're going to be there within the next 24 months, whether they know it or not. And so from my perspective, and I don't pretend that I know all of this, I think that the biggest aspect of what makes Web3 work is the fact that so many things are connected to the blockchain. You might be thinking, well, I might never have anything that's on the blockchain, but what I'm seeing is that the next deed to your property is going to be issued on a blockchain, a life insurance policy. You're going to get something of value or interest. You might even be buying tickets to a sporting event, or you might be buying a host of different things, and those are going to get delivered to you in a digital Web3 wallet. And Sizzle has created an embedded rewards wallet sitting on top of the MetaKeep wallet protocol, which is the ultimate secure Web3 wallet and simplest to use at the same time. So I think that the Sizzle MetaKeep revolution that we're ushering in is going to take large swaths of the audience who don't think they're ever going to be on Web3, and they're going to discover that one day they're going to go to their favorite brand's website, and that brand is going to say, put your email address right here and click enter. And the second you click enter, that Web3 wallet was just created. Whether you know it or not, whether you need to know it or not, is immaterial, because it's really just like a very highly sophisticated file folder. But we Sizzle, we take the entire rest of the world and we put it into that file folder, and we hyperconnect everything in the world together that way. That's why I think Web3 is going to be so important.
Too, it has to do with security. I mean, we're constantly fighting for companies trying to rip us off, basically. And the blockchain helps keep our stuff as our stuff. It makes it very hard to digitally copy it. I mean, it not impossible. I think that's the whole point of it, is that, it follows you, and it's basically something that cannot be duplicated.
Absolutely. In fact, I was at a seminar the other day, and they were talking about how you're going to probably want to start getting things like your news coming to you on a chain, because the deep fakes that are possible are so realistic at this point in time that the whole world of synthespians making you believe something was said that wasn't said is very real. And so some degree of certified validation that you're really getting it from the news source, assuming it's the source that you trust in the first place, that's going to be important. There's going to be a lot of that, a lot of things we aren't even thinking about yet that are going to be there. And this Sizzle wallet is so omnipresent. It doesn't matter how many different of the brands who use our wallet, whether you're at brand A, C, D, G, Z, they're all still using one comprehensive Sizzle wallet. It's one wallet that's getting created within your email address. It's one wallet to one email address, no matter where you go. But the branded wallets that we're creating is that if it's brand A and you're on their website and you enter their wallet, all you're going to see is brand A. So each brand has their own unique experience, really no different than a shopping mall, right? When you walk into a major, department store in a shopping mall, you're in their world, and eventually you might exit back out again into the mall. And that's where Sizzle Perks, our overall larger ecosystem of egress and ingress of customers in and out of different businesses, takes place. And so that's how we've structured it.
And when people first think of like selling consumer goods and sort of that sort of thing, they think, well, that's not something I'm interested in. Oh yeah, it is. We make consumer decisions every day that help identify who we are. I mean, it builds our identities. There's a big difference between a Porsche owner and a Prius owner. So, we pick those products that identify us and tell the world who we are. And as we go more and more online through virtual reality and augmented reality, those identifying things and those identifying purchases are going to be even more critical. And you are setting it up to where that can happen.
Absolutely. I think more than anything else, what Sizzle has done properly. Look, we've been advertising and marketing, as you said, the world's biggest brands for 44 years. There's a lot of broken things in that dynamic between the brand and the consumer over the course of time. The way that Sizzle was created was taking a look at it from both sides of the equation. What's absolutely wrong with advertising and marketing from the consumer's perspective? Consumers feeling like, don't market at me, communicate with me, build my friendship, entice me into a relationship, and then I'm going to love you forever for 100 reasons, right?
And
from
tell
the brand's
all my
perspective,
friends.
what's that?
And tell all my friends.
Exactly, right. Well, that's the single best methodology of making sales is peer-to-peer. You're going to buy something, you're 10 times or whatever that percentage is likely to make a purchase if your friend refers it to you, or to go see a movie or a television show or whatever. If a friend says, oh my God, you've got to see that. Way better than a trailer or a spot on radio or otherwise. So you want that viral nature. And from the brand side, a brand wants to be able to spend money that is trackable and actionable. And they want the opportunity that if you're going to entice a consumer, then you're going to build from activation to engagement to long-term loyalty. And that shouldn't be a painful process, and it shouldn't be an expensive process. It should be an efficient process. And if you're a brand, nowadays, show me any brand that's not in multiple different forms of media. You have to be. And how do all of those media create a completely coordinated, ultra engaging campaign? And that's, I think, where we've really stepped in and taken all the methodologies that we've used from driving consumers from top movies and top television shows and sports and comedy and whatever we've been promoting out to consumer packaged goods, to a service like an insurance line, or to an experience like an event or a concert or something like that, that bi-directional traffic. That's critical. That's what the consumers thrive on. and they don't want to be pestered. They want to be enlightened.
And
That's
entertained.
that's totally 100%, right? It's the whole difference between a push model, which is shoving an ad in your face where 96 out of 100 people are ignoring it, and you have no relationship with those other four, to the pull model. If I show you, if you're on YouTube and I show you a pre-roll commercial for a car that you're not interested in, you're tuned out. The switch in your brain is flipped. You might be in the market for that car and you might Google that car and get the exact same commercial, but now it's information, same commercial, but you want that information, so the switch is opposite. So that pull is so critical to what makes everything work. And when you start from that premise and everything needs to be a pull, then you're really no different than being a theme park, and Sizzle is the exit through the gift shop mentality. Give you emotional stimuli, and then give you cause for a thoughtful impulse reaction to something like that. And we're all consumers, right? We all find that one little impulse thing. Show me, I'll be the first one to know when there's something even in the supermarket line where I'm like, all right, you put it here, and so I'll add that to my list, or Amazon suggestion engine, or whatever. It's omnipresent. And so if it's efficient, like these interactive video players that we're about to put on everybody's website, we've got this Sizzle embedded widget which sits on top of YouTube videos and Vimeo videos and videos on your browser or our browser, and it's instantly transactional. So if you had something like that on the homepage of every one of the major department stores and Sephora and Amazon and Walmart, and the videos were target marketed to your specific interests, you're going to see very significant conversions. And we just streamlined all of that and then patented everything and put it together as part of our bigger system.
Yeah, I was watching a particular show. I'm a fan of several different genres, and this particular show showed, it was a competition, and it showed the resulting winners' stuff on it, and it had a way that you could go to a store and get exactly what it is you saw. And that is something I was interested in. It was for a home repair type of thing, so it showed me where to get the products that I just was watching. And that's the kind of engagement that we're talking about here, is something that we actually want, not just
Let's go one step deeper on that. So in the way that the methodology that you saw, you had to go to the physical store with a shopping list and go find those items? Is
It
that
was
how they work?
a link to a special page that was set up with those particular items of what I was seeing.
Right. Exactly. That's the same thought process as the interactive player is. You need to eliminate all the friction. You need to get
Yes.
to a point where a consumer, under any circumstances, so in the case of driving a transaction online, that's like you said, that's a hyperlink specifically into a shopping cart with pre-populated items. And we're doing that with cooking shows and recipes, and rippling the recipe. How many people are you feeding? Oh, I'm feeding 8. Ripple the recipe to, accommodate 8, put it into a cart, ship it to your home, and so on. But I think the bigger challenge that Sizzle was able to solve was, what about all the other ways you want a consumer to engage? What if one lucky consumer got the backstage pass to go meet their favorite basketball player at the stadium, right, or at the arena? So you're going to give that person a QR code, but that QR code is easily scammable. So Sizzle would give them a dynamic QR code that changes, every 20 seconds, and the reader and the code recognize each other. So even if I'm the guy who's using the code and then I send a screenshot to my friend, they're not going to get in, right? What if you want to issue a barcode that's redeemable at a restaurant or at a supermarket or something like that? What if you're watching a video and you want to make a hologram of, I've been promoting entertainment forever and a day. If I want to put a character, then we're suddenly the Matrix construct, or we're like the holodeck in Star Trek. We could be putting characters around you and creating all sorts of 3D environmentally immerse you into that cinematic experience. Or we could be putting little tiny Easter eggs into trailers on the video that, oh, did you know five frames of that red fire hydrant as the car goes by, but if you freeze it right there and you touch the fire hydrant, it opens up this Easter egg. And so all of these things that we've been doing for entertainment are now going to be available for all the brands to leverage all the toys without any of the big upfront expense.
And make it games. Make it gamify it. Make it fun.
100%. Yep. Yeah,
So,
we're launching with a really huge game in about 11 weeks that I'll be really excited to share with you once I'm allowed to talk about it.
okay, that sounds good. Now, you said in the beginning that you kind of stumbled onto this, that you were not a believer in the beginning of Web3. So, how did you come to make the decision to actually launch Sizzle and get involved in this? What happened?
Sizzle's been being built at the Illusion Factory for the last 8 years, and for the first 7, we were building the world's super app. So if you've ever looked at WeChat inside the People's Republic of China, it's a very different app than what we see outside of their borders. You could do everything inside that app, and I was exposed to that in 2007 when I went over there with my brand new iPhone 1 and was beaming to show this thing off, and then discovering how far ahead they already were and what they were doing and all that. But the marketplace, without me ever driving consumers into Sizzle, the marketplace was very clear. We love everything that you're doing, but we're not driving any of our customers to download your app. We want pieces of your technology inside our app, which at the time was going to be software development kits that had to be embedded into all these different apps, and that just meant keeping up with all the people who had our software would become enormously laborious. And then OpenWebGL came along and got more involved, and that facilitated our ability to take everything that was written in native code for iOS and Java for Android and port it all over into a browser-based opportunity. So metaphorically, with the Everything app, we were like a Swiss Army knife with 150 blades and scissors and functionalities. Now we're like a salad bar. So being like a salad bar, I read this article at Harvard Business Journal probably about 18 months back now, and they were saying that NFTs would hit their apex in value when they create VIP access, discount, first to know, first to buy, and all sorts of other privileges. And I thought, well, that's the Sizzle offer engine. That's what we already do. And so we focused on trying to put all of our functionality inside the NFTs that were inside the MetaMask platform. But I don't know if you've ever opened up a wallet on MetaMask. It's laborious, and there's a lot of friction in the process. And we've got statistics that show that about 99% of the people who attempt it or would attempt it, even if there's already a reward waiting for them in Web3, they're not going to convert and get the MetaMask wallet. So then when we partnered with Passport Research, which makes the MetaKey platform and their wallet protocol, it's a hardware wallet. It's completely non-custodial. So if a brand is putting up a wallet with their URL for the customer to come in, the brand has no liability, because what MetaKeep has done is they've taken the key to the wallet and it's carved in silicon just like the wallet itself. So there's no way for the consumer to ever have their key or to have their key compromised or anything like that. To me, that was the last piece of the puzzle. So a salad bar needs salad plates, and those salad plates were going to become NFTs, or they were going to be browser based. And that's when I strung the dots together about 17 months ago now, because I heard that broadcast or that podcast, I think, when it said, it was an article anyway, and said, that's for sure the new direction that we're going to go. We're going to let our app go in the back window, and we're going to modularize 150 technologies into piecemeal, whatever you want. And that's why I say we're much more like a salad bar, because every company comes along with different pieces. It's still operating off of the Sizzle offer engine. We haven't changed the majority of our software to do this. It's just where it expresses itself now. So now it could be smart television apps, it could be desktop, laptop. Sorry?
So they can pick and choose what it is how they want to access the wallet.
Consumers are on multiple screens at the same time right now. We need to be ubiquitous so that we service their needs wherever they are.
Yes.
Including being ubiquitous in outer space, which is why you and I met, because being a space junkie from being a little boy, I want to make sure that Sizzle has a place in history as being one of the first, absolute first, consumer brand platforms that has relevance in outer space. I've seen different programs of people wanting to shoot stuff in outer space because the physicality of, we're in outer space. But what we did at Sizzle, which is what we've done for all of our client brands, is we started projecting, okay, what are all the different forms of space tourism? What's that experience like? What do I want as a consumer while I'm up there? If I'm orbiting Earth for several days, looking at the planet is going to be magnificent, but what if I could interact with that planet in ways that that I haven't even thought of, right? So from the fun ways of taking a selfie with an extremely realistic alien inside the craft, all the way to the highly dedicated ways of pointing at the planet and finding out all sorts of deep pockets of things that you could be engaging as you're going over that particular part of the planet, and inviting all of the brands who are already working with to sponsor some of these attractions. I grew up, Disneyland was brand new when I was a little boy, so there was Monsanto and there was General Electric, and they had their pavilions, and I think that brands are going to discover that Sizzle is the place to put their digital pavilion, because it can never become obsolete and it can never be sequestered to only one media, and wherever you as a brand want to go, we've got pathways to easily hyper-connect,
Hold on to your boosters. We will be right back with guest Brian Weiner from the Illusion Factory and Sizzle after a brief message from our sponsors. Please like and subscribe the Space Marketing Podcast wherever you listen. And that's the space, that's the actual literal, being space tourists up above in orbiting the Earth. But there's also another aspect of it is that's virtual, being in the virtual space. And
yeah.
How many of us grew up with Star Wars and Star Trek? And that's also a virtual space in entertainment.
Yep.
So
you bet.
Virtual reality, augmented reality, which we all have on our phones at this point. Those are different things that can work with Sizzle.
We jumped into the metaverse when Second Life was brand new. So it was probably around 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. And we built about 40 metaverse projects back then and got really excited about the metaverse. And we were looking to build the overall metaverse. At that time, we were calling it V-World. And it represents a lot of the things that I'm seeing in all of the current models. But one of the projects that we built was a complete replica of the space station, and we were taking school kids up in astronaut suits and flying around. And oh my God, the enthusiasm. Here's the bottom line. I keep watching everybody pounding the drum about STEM, and we need more students involved in STEM. And all you have to do is just stimulate them. Yeah. The whole STEM platform is super exciting. Just stop making it boring. Just make it engaging and interactive. Absolutely. It's the truth, right? I mean, when you're passionate about something, your brain will go that extra distance to learn something that you would be feeling obstinate about if all you were trying to do was memorize and regurgitate.
So no matter what it is.
Comes from stimulation and back and forth and engagement and the technologies that we play with. So the AR and the VR is critical to that.
Exactly, and there's no reason that science isn't fun, but we make it unfun, and it can be a game. It's like ChatGPT, for example, is the artificial intelligence that's taking all the news right now, and people are saying that our students are using it to write their papers and whatnot, and how is that cheating or not? But the fact of the matter is we have to train our students for what the world is, not what the world used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago. We're not teaching our children to type on a manual typewriter. We're trying to teach them how to use the tools that they have and have fun at it and love learning. And let's get back to that. And these worlds can do that.
I couldn't agree more. I have a mirror bookshelf to the one that's behind me in the other part of my office, and it's got probably about 200 relics of all the cameras and the projectors and the initial flip phones and cell phones and calculators. And I mean, I've collected all these things because I keep that as a focal point inside the Illusion Factory to remind everybody that whatever we think we're expert and proficient at now, it'll be democratized and everybody will be doing it in a very short period of time. So, you mentioned AI, and my son just graduated and got his degree in AI, and we've got several clients that are asking us to do some projects like that. So we're investigating over 100 AI companies right now and really trying to bifurcate and sort, where we're going to use this kind here and that kind there. And I know that the world is very upset potentially about the threat of AI, and I think that after I read Stephen Hawking's treatise on the subject, I think if Stephen Hawking is to be scoffed at, then who are you going to believe at a certain point in time? So there's a yin-yang to the things that we're playing with. I read an article today that was talking about the first human being has been created in Britain that was made from three different humans, and science plays with stuff that I don't think is appropriate.
Right.
So at a certain point in time, you're going down a very slippery slope. But to take exception to AI or to take exception to Web3 because we're in our nice little comfort zone, I have to go back and look at that bookshelf and say, yeah, I remember when that Bolex was a camera that I could make movies with, and now it's a beautiful old camera relic on my shelf. It has nothing to do with anything to do with my trade other than I learned the whole process of filmmaking through that, right? So piece by piece, everything is one more step towards somewhere that you're going. And if you think you're going to, I wake up every morning wondering if we're still relevant or if we have to do something that's going to upgrade again today to, to keep pace with everything.
And we need
right?
to, we do our children a disservice when we try to keep time still, because time is not standing still. Technology is definitely not standing still. And if we do, then it'll go right by us, and our kids will not be prepared. So, another question. What are some of the marketing challenges that you're experiencing with this particular direction?
With this new direction? Mm-hmm. Two marketing challenges. The first one we've overcome. So I told you we thought we would be the world's super app, and the world told us we don't need your stinking app. So go back and figure it out again, which was great because we didn't take the time to put any users in there. We were just showing it to all our studio clients and explaining all the cool things that we could do. But I don't know if you've ever tried to price something at Amazon Cloud, AWS, and I had built a platform in 2005 that was way ahead of any of the Zoom technologies, and it was way ahead of them then, and it's still. But when I was hosting that on Amazon Cloud and I was trying to understand in thousandths of a cent, what are these things going to cost? Because I need to calculate what I charge the clients based on what my costs were. And Amazon would give a circuitous answer because they had so many different things. There wasn't one answer. Now that we're no longer an app, now that we're 150 technologies, I'm in their same position as clients are saying to me, well, what's this going to cost? So I could show you a platform as service series of 3 buckets on our website, but as quickly as I do that, if I was the consumer looking at my own price list, that would be, but I don't need that, but I need a lot of that, and that, can you charge me for that? So marketing challenge is going to be dialing in clear models that make every consumer and every brand that coordinates through us. Remember, our model is from both sides of the equation. They all need to feel like they were dealt with fairly, and they need to feel like we want to do more business with these people because they see the future and they're really helping us get there. And if we walk that talk and we're environmentally super charged with this global concert that we're working on with One Earth GPS, 46 cities around the world, one-day concert. My partners were some of the key players in Live Aid and Band Aid and Concert in the Park. And we have this global concert that we were going to do, but COVID shut it down. We were going to do it on Earth. It was going to be Earth Day 50 Live. And now we're ramping up to do the concert, coordinating with 6 divisions of the United Nations, coordinating and supporting the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and really bringing out some very important scientific breakthroughs that I think are going to make a much more optimistic future that I can't wait for people to start to hear about. I can't talk about it, but in that concert reaching 3.5 to 4 billion people, then the world will all hear about it on the same day. And hopefully that will take some of the stress off of the people who are sitting on top of these dangerously positive inventions, right?
Well,
so
sounds good. What
challenges.
have been some of your marketing successes that you've had throughout your career that are notable?
Well, when you say my marketing successes, first I would have to defer and say that belongs to the entire team of the Illusion Factory and the teams of all the people who were working inside all of the studio systems with whom we were collaborating. You know, a great marketing campaign doesn't start in any one particular mind, and Illusion Factory is an ego-free environment, so there's never an I, there's always a we in the equation. We've had a lot of really interesting successes over the course of time. We had a long tenure with 10 divisions of Warner Brothers over a 25-year span of time, and marketed a lot of the top television shows with our pieces of the marketing equation. So it wasn't us marketing those shows, it was them marketing the shows with technology and concepts and creativity that we supplied. We made a music video that we did all the visual effects and designed for Alan Jackson back in 2001, when computers were brand new, and Arista Records challenged us to make a music video that looked like a Monet painting come to life. So we spent quite a bit of time putting that together, but we were nominated for Music Video of the Year in the Billboard Awards, the MTV Awards, and won Music Video of the Year and Album of the Year and Song of the Year and Visual Effects in a music video at the Country Music Awards. So that was a fun moment.
I bet.
And we brought in Sync up to the IMAX screen and did a global marketing campaign of all of that. So I don't know, after 44 years and thousands of projects, I honestly just feel fortunate and privileged to have had the chance to collaborate with so many different clients and companies over the course of time. That's been a blessing for sure.
Well, awesome answer. Very awesome answer. So, okay. So, as in space, let's go back to space for a minute. Where do you see the industry in, say, the next 10 to 15 years?
Which industry?
Space, or even whichever. Let's go with space. So, because we're both space nerds.
Yep. I have to believe that there's a broad swath of public that are going to want to find their way certainly up in any one of the opportunities to just get up and witness the planet from that perspective, right? So the whole overview effect that everybody talks about and all that, I think that has to be incredibly healthy for humanity, for that to proliferate all over social media in ways that we haven't begun to think of. It's one thing to see a NASA shot from a satellite. It's another thing to see that your friend went up there and snapped those pictures. It's like seeing that vacation shot of that paradise that you didn't even know existed on that little tiny island over there, and you're like, oh my God. But because you're not seeing it from a travel agency, you're seeing it on your friend's post on a social site or something like that. It's that peer-to-peer referral that's so important, because it validates. We need that as a society, end of story. We need to start looking at humanity as one humanity, and not the polarization that's being spoon-fed us from a lot of very scared institutions.
Yes.
I was really, back when we were working inside Second Life, not for them, but building our own platforms inside there, Dr. Sagan's widow contacted us, and we built a museum that honored Dr. Sagan. And I got to do a deep dive on Pale Blue Dot and everything that his perspective connoted, and just was so impressed. I wanted everywhere to get that message out, because the quicker, faster we see that, as quickly as we're dying to leave our Garden of Eden, if you will, we need to remember that it's still probably the best place in the universe to live, and we ought to do everything we can to wake up to the scientific relevance that's being put to us, instead of being ostriches with our heads in the ground, and start taking real action. And those are the kind of scientific technologies that our One Earth GPS stands for Global Problem Solvers, we want to announce all of this as quickly as possible because I think that there's a lot of mental illness that's perpetuated by people feeling hopeless by the bombardment of negative news about where the future is going. If we do anything right for all the efforts that my colleagues and I are doing, it's going to be spreading more and more positive information about there are ways and we've got technologies that will help and we want to galvanize. Um, One of the opportunities, we have a platform called Freaks, short for frequencies, Freques, and and it's a whole interconnected opportunity for people to connect with others. If you want to be part of the solution and you're feeling disenfranchised in your apartment in XYZ city, here's a connector so that you could go out and be part of an urban planning and planting, this weekend, or just volunteer, just get involved. There's so much resource. It needs infrastructure. So coming back to your core question about where are we going in outer space, more and more people going out there, more and more things being discovered, more and more, value that comes back down to the planet. How could it not be so relevant? It has to be relevant. And space doesn't look like it's a very easy trip based on some of the stuff that we were hearing at the conference together. I think you've got to, you've got to want to do that. But all the more reason to be putting people in. IMAX was my client for I think about 10 to 12 years, and back in the 90s, and we were, The Dream is Alive came out in that window of time, and and young influential people saw that movie and went on to become key personnel inside the space shuttle, and then they came back and were our keynote speakers, and when she was speaking about that, just lit up. It's like that's what the entertainment industry needs to be. It needs to be that what I was saying about STEM earlier. It needs to be the eye candy that wakes that really excited brain and says, I want to be part of that. I need to be part of that. That's got relevance, and my calling is there. And I think that we can become a huge catalyst in that regard. And I'm certainly going to give it my best shot.
Well, and as far as the one thing that all of us have in common is that we live on this planet. That is the
Yeah.
one thing we have in common. And, I think based on what you said, there's a lot of hopelessness out there because people feel like that they have no control. And so I love that that the GPS actually gives people an outlet so that they can feel like they make a difference. And and I think that is the
100%.
seed of happiness right there, is making a difference.
Very important. You need to empower people to be part of the solution. They don't want to sit on the sideline and watch. They want to roll up their sleeves and engage. And so that
Absolutely.
comes all the way back to the premise we talked about at the beginning. Don't market at me, communicate with me. Build
Yep.
my loyalty, build my friendship, engage me, give me cause and reason to believe in you, and then I'll follow you anywhere as long as you don't ever take advantage of the relationship. So that's where the future of consumers and brands are going, and that's going to happen a lot through gaming. We've built more than 1,000 games. We've had 100 million plus plays. I don't even know. Doesn't matter. But all of those games were deepening a consumer's engagement in whatever entertainment property that we've been promoting and giving them a greater loyalty. And then we were watching, our viewing audiences escalate the more that we would turn those kinds of things on. So if you really like your consumer as opposed to just seeing them as a financial resource that your company is making money with, if you treasure your consumer and you treat them like that, they feel it. Of course they feel it.
Yeah.
Very important.
Totally. We all do. And respecting your audience and your customer is key. So that was a lot of good nuggets. And my final question is, what thoughts do you want to leave our audience with? But I mean, those were lots of really good ones. So what thought
I
do
would
you
say
want
I
to?
would say as a closing statement,
Yes.
if you think you're an entrepreneur, you need to know what your bedroom ceiling looks like at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yes.
Because if you don't know what your bedroom ceiling looks like, you haven't gotten there yet. And I'm not saying that with any degree of pompousness. I'm saying if you really want to get into something and put your heart and soul into it, It's not a 9 to 5 job. It has nothing to do with any of that. The reason Sizzle is where it is, we've had so many people tell us that we're boiling the ocean and it's way too big and you can't do that and nobody's gonna, and negative, negative, negative. So if I can leave any breadcrumb for any entrepreneur behind me, I've put up a website at my name, brianweiner.com. I write nothing but Zen mindset for people and or in particular entrepreneurs who want to understand that there's a lot of down days in being an entrepreneur. There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of self-recrimination and disappointment and frustration and all that. But best job you'll ever love. You know, it's the most amazing thing out there. So if you're looking to take pieces of anything that I've shared with you, start with a mega dose of genuine optimism and recognize
awesome.
that if you don't have that optimism, and if you can't find it on your darkest day, develop that one first, because freedom comes from being at ease with the certainty of uncertainty. And if you can't get there, then go work the 9 to 5 job and make your life way less stressful. You'll make more money, you'll work less hours, you'll have more vacations than your friends who are the entrepreneurs, but you'll be missing one big piece of the puzzle, which is learning what you're made of. And I think that's a good thing for everybody to discover, right? And make the difference.
Make the
100%
difference.
Izzy.
Because,
Yeah,
we're not going to change this world if all of us just sit from the couch and watch it go by.
no question. Get out there and make stuff happen.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you so much for joining me tonight and
Thank you
sharing
for
all that.
having me. I appreciate it.
I mean, that's awesome. It's awesome, and thank you for making time.
Genuinely my pleasure. I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you as time goes on.
Absolutely, because we're two birds of a feather.
Yes, ma'am. Have a great
So,
night, Izzy.
a special thanks to Brian Weiner from the Illusion Factory and Sizzle for sharing his journey to space. Be sure to check out his links listed in today's show notes. Before you go, please like and subscribe the Space Marketing Podcast to help get the word out about space. I hope that you have found this podcast useful for your journey as you reach for the stars.